There's a version of you who speaks English confidently. The person participates in conversations. The person speaks during meetings. The person travels without being afraid of every interaction. The person doesn't spend 5 minutes translating one sentence inside their head. And maybe that person gets the job, the opportunity, the promotion, or the life experience you've been waiting for. But here's the question. What is that version of you doing differently? Because perhaps the difference between you and that person is not vocabulary. It is not grammar. It is not pronunciation. Maybe the biggest difference is the story that person tells about themselves. Today, I'm going to teach you one simple English structure. It is easy to understand. It is easy to use, but it can completely change the way you talk about your past, your present, and your future. And by the end of this video, you are not only going to learn English, you are going to use English to rewrite part of your story. The structure is, I used to, blah, but now, blah, because I decided to. Let's break it down. The first part is, I used to. We used to describe a situation, habit, or reality that was true in the past, but is not necessarily true anymore. For example, I used to avoid speaking English. I used to feel nervous during English meetings. I used to translate everything in my head. I used to believe my English was terrible. Notice what happens when you use this structure. You are not saying, this is who I am. You are saying, this is who I was. That difference is powerful. Compare these two sentences. I'm afraid of speaking English. I used to be afraid of speaking English. The first sentence sounds permanent. It sounds like fear is part of your identity. The second sentence, however, creates distance. It puts fear in the past. Even before you finish the rest of the sentence, your brain already understands something has changed. That's why the language we use about ourselves matters. When you constantly say, I am shy, I'm bad at English, I'm not confident, I can't speak, you are not only describing a problem, you may be turning that problem into an identity. Try changing the language. Instead of saying, I'm bad at speaking English, say, I used to struggle when speaking English. Instead of saying, I'm too shy, say, I used to let my shyness control my conversations. Instead of saying, I can't speak under pressure, say, I used to freeze when people spoke to me unexpectedly. Your past may explain you, but it does not have to define you. The second part is, but now. I love the word but. It's such a small word, but it has the power to change the direction of a sentence. Listen, I was nervous, but I spoke. I made mistakes, but people understood me. I didn't know the perfect word, but I continued. I was afraid, but I didn't run away. The word but creates a turning point. It tells the listener, the story is not finished yet. So now you can say, I used to avoid speaking English, but now I can start conversations. I used to translate everything, but now I focus on communicating the idea. I used to stay silent in meetings, but now I share at least one opinion. I used to be embarrassed by mistakes, but now I use them to learn. Notice something important. But now doesn't mean you are perfect. It does not mean you never feel afraid. It does not mean that suddenly you speak English like a native speaker. It means you have evidence of change. Maybe our evidence is small, and that's okay. You can say, but now I try. But now I speak for 30 seconds. But now I ask one question. But now I send voice messages. But now I participate. Even when I feel nervous. Confidence does not always arrive as a dramatic transformation. Sometimes confidence looks like an extra sentence. Sometimes confidence stays in the conversation for 10 seconds longer. Sometimes confidence is making a mistake and not apologizing for existing. Small evidence repeated consistently becomes a new identity. Now we come to the third part. Because I decided to. This is the part where you take ownership of the change. For example, because I decided to stop waiting until I felt ready. Because I decided to practice every day. Because I decided to speak even when I was nervous. Because I decided that mistakes would no longer control me. Because I decided to stop treating fear as a command. The last one is important. Fear can give you information. Fear can tell you that something matters. But fear should not always make the decision. You can feel nervous and still speak. You can feel uncertain and still participate. You can forget a word and still communicate. You can make a mistake and still be respected. This is something many English learners misunderstand. They believe the order is, first, I become confident, then I speak. But usually, the real order is, first I speak, then through experience, I develop confidence. You do not wait for confidence before taking action. Confidence is built through action. Confidence is a skill, and every time you practice the skill, you strengthen it. Now let's put everything together. I used to avoid conversations in English, but now I speak even when I'm nervous because I decided to stop waiting for perfect confidence. Again, I used to avoid conversations in English, but now I speak even when I feel nervous because I decided to stop waiting for perfect confidence. Here are a few more examples. I used to translate every sentence, but now I focus expressing the main idea because I decided that communication matters more than perfection. I used to stay quiet in meetings, but now I contribute at least once because I decided that my ideas deserve to be heard. I used to feel embarrassed by my accent, but now I speak clearly and proudly because I decided that an accent is not a lack of intelligence. I used to avoid opportunities that required English, but now I prepare myself and apply because I decided not to reject myself before other people even had the chance to consider me. Now that last sentence is bigger than English. Sometimes we reject ourselves first. We do not apply for the job. We do not ask the question. We do not start the conversation. We do not introduce ourselves. We assume the answer will be no. We decide that our English is not good enough before anyone else says anything or before anyone else has said anything. Your English may still need improvement. I'm not denying that. Of course it does. Mine does too. Everybody can improve. But improvement and participation can happen at the same time. You do not have to disappear while you are developing. I want to tell you something personal. So I'll stay on the chair for this one. People may see me today speaking English, teaching, creating videos, ideas, and helping other people communicate with confidence that came before this. They do not see the moments when I had to adapt, the moments when I didn't know what to say, the moments when I questioned myself, moments when I had to communicate even though I wasn't completely comfortable. When I was younger, I went to Canada. Later on, I visited other countries in Europe or even the United States. Later, I even lived also in Australia. And those experiences helped shape me. But living abroad does not magically eliminate insecurity. That's not what I'm saying. You still have to choose to speak. You still have to accept that sometimes you will sound different. You still have to enter conversations without controlling every possible outcome. Over time, I understood something. Confidence is not a personality that a few people or a few lucky people receive. Confidence is developed through evidence. Every conversation becomes evidence. Every difficult moment you survive becomes evidence. Every time you express yourself clearly becomes evidence. Every time you make a mistake and continue speaking becomes evidence. So here's my sentence. I used to believe confidence was something some people naturally had. But now I understand that it can be trained because I decided to stop treating fear as a command. And maybe you need to make that decision too. Now, I want you to do something. Do not only watch this video, participate. Get a piece of paper. Active learning, I always talk about that. Open the Notes app on your phone if necessary. Write these 3 lines here. I used to, write it down, but now, because I decided to, write down. Do not try to sound impressive. Be honest. Maybe your answer is, I used to avoid speaking English, but now I practice with voice messages because I decided to become more consistent. Maybe it is, I used to think I was too old to learn, but now I study a little every day because I decided my age would not choose my future. Or maybe it is, I used to stay quiet at work, but now I prepare what I want to say because I decided to stop hiding my ideas. Maybe your transformation is only beginning. I used to wait for the perfect moment, but now I'm taking the first step because I decided to begin before I felt ready. Now, read your sentence aloud. The first time, read it normally. I used to, blah, but now, blah, because I decided to, blah. The second time, read it more clearly. Slow down. Finish every word. Now look forward. The third time, do not read it like a student completing an exercise. Read it like a person making a decision. Say it again. I used to, but now, because I decided to. Your voice may shake, and that's okay. A shaking voice is still a voice. An imperfect sentence is still communication. A nervous attempt is still action. Now imagine you are standing in front of a mirror. Look at the person in front of you. That person has survived every embarrassing moment so far. That person has already learned things that they thought were impossible at first. That person has probably overcome challenges much bigger than one conversation in English. So why are you talking to yourself as if you were incapable? Why are you using permanent language for temporary problems? I am bad at English. I'm shy. I can't speak. I will never be fluent. Be careful. Words repeated often become beliefs. And beliefs repeated often become behavior. So change the sentence. I used to believe I couldn't speak, but now I'm building the ability because I decided to keep going. You do not need to lie to yourself. You do not need to pretend you are already fluent. You only need to stop describing yourself as finished. You are not finished. You are in progress. Here's my challenge for you. Complete this sentence in the comments here, please. I used to, but now, because I decided to. Write in English. It does not need to be perfect. I would rather see an honest, imperfect sentence than a perfect sentence you copied from somewhere else. This is not authenticity. You can also record yourself saying it. You do not have to post the video if you don't want to. Record it privately. Watch it again in 30 days, not now. 30 days after you watch this video. Then record another one. This is how you create evidence. Not evidence that you are perfect, evidence that you are moving. At the beginning of this video, I asked you to imagine the confident version of yourself. The version who speaks, the version who participates, the version who stops hiding. Maybe you imagine that person far away in the future, but that person is not waiting for you at the end of some perfect English course. That person is being created now. Every time you speak when it would be easier to stay silent. Every time you continue after forgetting a word. Every time you make a mistake without destroying yourself emotionally. Every time you decide that your message is more important than your fear. You do not become confident and then take action. You take action and confidence begins to recognize you. So complete the sentence. I used to, but now because I decided to. Your story is not finished. Your English is not finished. You are not finished. Confidence is a skill. Start training it today. Subscribe for more.